Well, it's that time of year again. eicma, the traditional showcase for new bike launches, is still a few weeks away, but thanks to many manufacturers now preferring online launches, or at least teasers, we already have a good idea of what's going to be at Milan. So here in more or less alphabetical order, and with a guesstimate as to the likelihood and the price in Europe, is a taste of some of the most exciting new bikes waiting for us in 2024. Pundits have been predicting a power hike for the existing RS lineup, but Aprilia has surprised everyone with a bit of downsizing in the form of this 450, liquid-cooled parallel twin like its 660 stablemates, but just a single brake disc up front and probably around 48 horsepower to ensure A2 license compatibility. Aprilia has yet to make the most of the mid-size adventure market. Their Touareg 660 is expensive, probably too off-road oriented, and hasn't been the runaway success the manufacturer was hoping for. So we could well be seeing this more road-focused Caponor with its V4 engine set to compete with the Multistrada. I'd only give it a 50-60% chance of seeing daylight though. The BMW R1300 GS, without a doubt one of the most highly anticipated bikes of 2024, and in fact the official presentation is only a few days away now on September 28th, so it could well be that you've already seen it. We already know that the flat twin is being uprated to about 1300cc and 150 horsepower. There'll be an adventure model and even an M variant, which perhaps slightly surprisingly will be more off-road focused. It's going to be expensive. Base price is already double what I paid for my Transalp. Yes, I know, completely different bike, but it does make me think. And with a few must-have options, I reckon you'll be looking at closer to 30,000. There's a new 9T coming too. 10 years after its launch, the original bike is getting an overhaul. Nothing mind-blowing, I don't think. Slightly different tank and rear end, and a few tweaks to the engine to bring it in line with the latest emission standards. How about this for a completely bonkers bike? In standard guise, the S1000XR is no slouch, but this M version gets an extra 35 horsepower to hit the magic 200. And with the now obligatory front wings, as much as I'd love to have a go on one, I can't really see who'd buy one over a regular sports bike or over an adventure bike, but BMW must know what they're doing. There's also the new F900 GS range, but that was presented officially a week or so ago, so I imagine that if you are interested, then you'll already have all the information you need. It uses the engine from the F900XR that I had a couple of years ago, and to be honest, didn't really gel with, so personally I'm not that excited about this new range. The BSA Scrambler. Now this was already on display at last year's Motorcycle Live show in Birmingham and attracted a lot of interest. Thing is though, most of us outside the UK can't even get our hands on the Gold Star it's based on. Peugeot motorcycles are supposed to be the official distributors in France, for example, but at the time of filming there's still no mention of BSA on their website, so who knows? Possibly the best looking motorcycle ever made, 2024 will see the Panigale get a few more horsepower, a new exhaust, redesigned front fairing for improved heat dissipation and better aerodynamics. Not sure I'd actually ride it that much, but if I had 30,000 euros burning a hole in my pocket, I would love to have one in my garage. Perfection or pointless? Let me know what you think in the comments. Slightly more down to earth is the Supersport Touring. Now, according to documents registered recently with the California Air Resources Board, Ducati has got two variants in the pipeline, a T and an ST, which would suggest a bike designed for touring. Probably higher bars and taller windscreen, luggage carrying abilities and a more comfortable seat. Another CARB find, this rally version of the much-loved Desert X. Identical engine characteristics but with a redesigned bodywork for a more off-road look, as well as a larger fuel tank and improved crash protection. A more road-focused version of the Caballero 700 with its Yamaha CP2 engine, this time with longer travel suspension and greater luggage carrying capabilities. I just hope they set the front end up a bit better than on the standard 700 though, because when I tried that briefly a few weeks ago, the handling seemed a bit off. And at 10,000 euros, it's getting a bit expensive for a 700cc Fantic, isn't it? What do you think? I like Hondas. Regular viewers will know that I'm currently running a Transalp 750 and an ADV 350, so I'm always keen to see what new models are around the corner. And here we have a CBR 750R. Well, 60% probability I'd give it. Likely using the engine and chassis from the Hornet to replace the current CBR 650R. As with the Hornet and Transalp, pricing should be very competitive at around €10,000, but I'll only give it a 60% chance of seeing daylight in 2024. And in the same vein, we could well see Honda use the same platform to produce a CB750, a modern reinterpretation of the CB750-4, which could also replace the now defunct CB1100R. It would be a parallel twin rather than a proper four-cylinder, and for me that's where it would rub. It just doesn't look right with only two downpipe pipes. A retro retake too far maybe, but Kawasaki pulled the same trick when they revived the Z650RS, so why wouldn't Honda? Let me know what you think. Or how about a new Africa twin? Well, according to this quick poll I posted recently, the idea certainly would appeal. There have been documents online with the codename SD14, which in Honda parlance could refer to a greater than 900cc engine, that's the S, with off-road abilities, the D, and they recently applied for patents on an 1100cc twin engine with direct injection and a supercharger, which would allow them to optimize the performance while still complying with emissions regulations. So let's be optimistic and say 70% likely. Three things have always put me off the Africa twin: the price, the size and weight, and the relative lack of power. So let's hope Honda delivers with a 2024 refresh. The 401 and 701 models haven't exactly been runaway sales successes, but Husqvarna is confident enough to try their luck again with the engine from the KTM 890. I just hope they make the riding position a bit more comfortable, because the Vic Pillion in particular was not the easiest to get on with. And then there's the dealer network. I don't know what it's like for you where you live, but for me the nearest dealer is 3 hours away. Not that many bikes from Kawasaki to get excited about so far this year, but this is about to change with the launch of the 400cc ZX4R and RR in Europe. It's been out for a while in other parts of the world. An inline four-cylinder engine pushing out 77 horsepower at a lofty 14,500 RPM. Not exactly ideal for your daily commute, but a real hoot on the track for beginners looking to gain a bit of experience before taking on litre bikes. In the market for a smallish cruiser, how about this Kawasaki Eliminator? Think of it as their answer to Honda's 500 Rebel, a water-cooled parallel twin, 48 horsepower. Looks and sounds meaner than it actually is, although reviews from the US, where it's already available, have been quite positive, and it'll be a decent beginner's bike. Withdrawn from sale in 2021, the ZX6R is making an unexpected return. Now fully Euro 5 compliant, it hangs on to 129 of the previous model's 130 horsepower, but the price will no doubt go up a bit. More up my street as a fan of retro bikes in general is this redesign of the GPZ that ran from the mid-80s to the early 2000s. The Japanese press seem to think it's definitely coming next year, but I'm not so sure, 60%. Hope it does though, because it looks absolutely stunning. Now I can't say I've ever got off the 1290 Super Duke that's shown in this clip and thought it needed a bit more power, but KTM obviously does, because 2024 will see the launch of a 1400cc model, which should be good for at least 180, 190 horsepower. Fabulous, bonkers even, but probably still a bit too orange and pointy for me. I think we'll definitely be seeing the 990 Duke in 2024 too. Uprated chassis over the outgoing 890, same parallel twin LC8C engine, but brought out to 990, which should be good for 130 horsepower. This or the Triumph Street Triple RS. It's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since the previous generation 990 was removed from KTM's lineup, but an uprated version of their already fantastic 890 is almost certainly just round the corner. Among the various models, I reckon we'll be seeing that an RC 990, road bias sports bikes are back, Honda CBR 650, Aprilia 660 RS, Yamaha R7, and KTM doesn't want to miss out. Tubular chassis, large capacity parallel twin, wraparound fairing, fashionable aero wings, and low mounted clip-ons. Should be very entertaining. The engine from last year's V100 Sports Tourer in an adventure bike. Pre-production models have already been spotted out testing, like this one, so it could well be one of the stars of the Milan show. I hope the suspension is more comfortable than on the Mandala though. Moto Morini is looking to capitalise on the success of the Escape 650 with this 1200 version. Should have around 130 horsepower. Enticing, but again that's a serious wedge of cash for a Chinese bike. Okay, a Triumph or BMW equivalent would be 22, 25,000. But I think what people often forget with Chinese source bikes and cars is that, at least for the moment, what you save when you buy, you lose when you sell. Fantastic Panigale rivaling looks and 208 horsepower, but not a single MV Agusta dealer here in Portugal kind of makes this a non-starter for me, even if I did have the €32,000 asking price burning a hole in my pocket. Slightly more reasonable and still looking absolutely stunning, the Brutale, 140, 150 horsepower, same base as the Lucky Explorer that we saw at last year's show. KTM are now shareholders in Agusta though, and they don't seem that enthusiastic about another adventure bike, so I think we're more likely to see these Super Nakeds. This is the special Assen edition, announced a few days ago. Gorgeous, but with a price tag heading dangerously close to €50,000. I probably wouldn't even be able to afford the insurance. Now, people have been waiting for this Interceptor-based scrambler for what seems like forever, but I reckon this time, well, next year, we'll definitely be seeing it on the road. Pictures of pre-production models have been doing the rounds for a few months now and show mildly blocky tyres, spoked rims and wide bars. Not sure about the looks, to be honest. Bit of a mishmash, as if they've thrown every accessory they have at an Interceptor, and it'll need to be good to fend off the forthcoming Triumph 400 Scrambler. And I was surprised by the relatively low level of interest for it in my recent poll. A friend of mine in a local bike club has the current Himalayan, and he freely admits that it's hard work keeping up with the rest of us on group rides. We really don't ride that fast, and I know some viewers get annoyed when I say that motorcycles need 80 or 90 horsepower minimum, but 24 horsepower, the output of the current bike, is, well, dire really. The new one, which is due to be presented officially on November the 1st, should hopefully be getting around 45, which is much, much more like it. Fancy a cheapish bobber? Well, Royal Enfield are readying two for us. The 650 concept bike was shown way back at eicma in 2021, but 2024 could well see it come to market. Based on the Meteor 650, but with a higher standard of finish, it should come in well under the €10,000 mark. And why make do with just one bobber when you can have two? After the Classic, the Meteor and the Hunter, the 350cc engine is going to be put to use in a mini bobber, complete with ape hanger bars and a pillion seat. Suzuki has been quite open about their intention to use this year's 800cc platform for a whole range of bikes. 2023 saw the launch of the 8S Naked and the 800DE off-road bike. Next year should see the arrival of the R7 Daytona Challenger in the shape of this GSX 8R, as well as this more road-focused version of the DE. Cast alloy wheels, probably 19-inch at the front, narrower handlebars, taller windscreen, and a few kilos and euros less. A slightly bigger, more modern V-Strom 650. Ever since these were announced over the summer, I've found myself wanting one, especially the Scrambler. I've absolutely no need for one, and they'll probably be too small for me physically, especially the Roadster. But I kind of like little bikes, and I just think they look so much nicer than other classic and semi-retro offerings currently available in the 400 to 600cc market. My dealer has said I can borrow one for a few days as soon as they get one in, so I'm looking forward to that. Strongly rumoured is a Tiger 900 2.0 with more power so as to remain competitive. The current Tiger was in my top 3 when I was looking for my mid-size adventure bike, but as nice as it is, I decided against it because I thought it was just too expensive for what you get, 16,000 for only 95 horsepower, and a pretty bland 95 horsepower at that. Figures for the Mark II version haven't been confirmed yet, but 115, 120 horsepower would be great, while still leaving a decent gap to the 1200's 150 horsepower. One thing Triumph definitely seems set on is a revival of the Daytona name, and as my very first bike was a 2004 600, I have a bit of a soft spot for them. Based on the 80 horsepower engine from the Trident and Tiger Sport, it's not going to offer the same kind of performance as its illustrious 675 predecessor, but given the popularity of the Yamaha R7, it should sell well. Well, this was in last year's video and still no sign of it. Personally, I would have thought there'd be more demand for this adventure style bike based on the Tiger 660 Sport than a new Daytona, but Triumph's marketers know a lot more about the motorcycle industry than I do. Either they've abandoned the whole idea or we're in for a nice surprise at eicma. Yamaha has been promising us this, a sort of cafe racer hybrid based on the XSR 900 for a couple of years, But a prototype turned up at the Goodwood Festival in July under the name XSR90 DB40. It seems doubtful they'd go to all this trouble for a one-off show queen, so fingers crossed for 2024. Probably of greater interest to Yamaha in terms of sales would be this Tenere 900. Given the success of the Tenere 700, it's hard to understand why a 900cc version hasn't been in their catalogue for years. With the fabulous engine from the NT09 and Tracer 9, it will be much more powerful and probably slightly more road biased than the T7, the sort of bike I'd be interested in as a replacement for the Transalp, in fact. And finally, how about electric bikes? Yep, there'll probably be some electric bikes at EICMA. Anyway, that's it for this year's preview. Doors open on November the 7th to the press. YouTubers like me are let in on the 8th. Which bikes are you most looking forward to seeing? Have I missed any? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.